It was a bright and cool afternoon at a skydiving training center park. The sky was completely clear. A gentle breeze was blowing, and as far as the eye could see, there was nothing but a vast blue sky. On the runway, a small training plane stood ready. Today, the training center was unusually busy. Several new students had arrived to experience skydiving for the very first time. There was excitement on their faces, but also a little fear. Among all of them, one man looked calmer than anyone else. His name was Stark. 45-year-old Stark was no ordinary instructor. He had been skydiving for the past 20 years. He had completed more than 500 jumps. The students at the training center trusted him blindly, because Stark never panicked. Even if a student became frightened in the air, Stark would calmly guide them. He had one rule: if you panic in the sky, you'll end up meeting the ground. By that afternoon, Stark had already completed 2 successful jumps. Normally, instructors rest after 2 jumps, but on the ground, a group of 6 students was still waiting. All of them wanted to jump with Stark. One of the students said, "Sir, please, do one last jump with us." Stark looked up at the sky. Then he smiled slightly and said, "All right, guys, one last jump. Just for you." The students started cheering happily. Stark walked toward the equipment room. He picked up his parachute bag in his right hand. Then he grabbed his camera gear bag in his left hand. Earlier that morning, Stark had been recording videos of the jumps. Both bags were black in color, and their size and design looked almost identical. In a hurry, he simply took both bags with him. At that moment, he had absolutely no idea that a small mistake was about to turn into the most dangerous moment of his life. Plane takeoff. A few minutes later, everyone was seated inside the plane sped down the runway and slowly began climbing into the sky. Inside the aircraft were 6 students and Stark. The students were excited, but also nervous. While putting on his bag, Stark gave them their final instructions. Remember, keep your body straight. Don't panic. And remember the timing to pull your parachute. The Twin Otter slowly climbed to an altitude of 13,000 feet. The pilot gave the signal. The door of the plane was opened. Suddenly, a powerful rush of wind burst inside the aircraft. The students' hearts started pounding. Stark stepped near the door. Then he shouted loudly, "Ready!" He raised his hand and signaled, "Jump!" One by one, the students jumped out of the plane. Below them was nothing but open sky and distant ground. Stark stood at the door watching them. A few seconds later, 6 white parachutes opened in the sky below. Everyone was safe. It was Stark's turn. He took a deep breath and jumped out of the plane. The realization. Stark was now in freefall. The wind screamed loudly in his ears. Above him, the sky. Below him, the ground. And in between them, everything felt completely normal. Then Stark reached behind his back to pull the ripcord. But in that very moment, his heart almost stopped. A horrifying realization struck him. Earlier that morning, he had been recording skydiving videos. And in a hurry, while giving instructions to the students, he had accidentally put on the camera gear bag, not the parachute bag. Both bags looked identical. Same design. Same black color. Even their weight felt almost the same. So he never noticed the mistake. Which meant he had no parachute at all. Only a few seconds remained before reaching the ground. If he crashed directly onto the ground, there would be no chance of survival. For a few seconds, Stark's heart started racing. But then, his 20 years of experience took control. He told himself, "Don't panic, think the plan." Suddenly, he remembered something. Inside the second pocket of his camera gear bag, there was a folded bedsheet. And inside the third pocket, there was a flare gun. The bedsheet was usually used to cover equipment, or sometimes spread on the ground to sit on. An idea flashed instantly in Stark's mind. He looked down toward the ground. He noticed a soft, muddy area. The ground looked like a swamp. If he landed on hard ground, the impact would kill him instantly. But if he landed in mud, it might absorb some of the shock. Stark adjusted his body angle in the air. Using the wind, he began gliding toward the muddy area. With every passing second, the ground was getting closer. He didn't have much time left. The impossible trick. As Stark got closer to the ground, opening the bag during freefall was extremely difficult. The strong wind kept shaking his hands. Still, he quickly took off the bag and held it tightly in his left hand. Somehow, he managed to open the zipper. Then he pushed his right hand inside the bag and grabbed the four corners of the bedsheet. At the perfect moment, he pulled the sheet out of the bag. The powerful wind instantly filled the sheet. The bedsheet began behaving like a temporary parachute. It slowed down Stark's falling speed. And then, Dom! Stark crashed straight into the muddy swamp. The mud absorbed most of the impact, and the bedsheet had already reduced his speed. His body and legs were badly injured. He screamed in pain, but he was alive. Rescue. As soon as he landed, Stark quickly opened the bag. He pulled out the flare gun and fired a flare straight into the sky. A bright red light burst into the air. People at the training center immediately noticed it. The rescue team arrived within minutes. Stark was rushed to the hospital. After examining him, the doctors said, several of his bones are fractured. But it's a miracle that he survived. 1 month later, after a month of treatment and rest in the hospital, Stark slowly recovered. When he finally came outside, the media surrounded him and started asking questions all at once. One reporter asked, "When you didn't even have a parachute, how did you survive? There wasn't even a forest below, just flat land." Stark smiled slightly. He looked up at the sky. Then he said, "In skydiving, the most important thing isn't just the parachute." Then he looked at the camera and pointed his finger at his head and said, "The most important thing is the speed of your mind and your planning."